I'm a different person in that I'm much more confident that my message needs to be shared and that everyone listening, your message also needs to be shared. Whatever limiting beliefs or lies you're telling yourself that are just that, they're not true. And your story really does need to be shared. So what makes me different is that I'm just so much more confident now. I think about my audience and how I'm doing this in service to them. I'm not here for attention. I'm not here for whatever selfish ambitions that I thought people would judge me for. I'm here because whoever can benefit from it, I want them to be encouraged to do it too, whatever that goal is of theirs. So,
hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have another great author on the podcast. She's got some great things ahead for her in her journey as a writer. She helps people as well. She's going to help you on your journey as an author, as a writer, as a creative person. And Christi's here on the podcast to talk about her journey as well. Christi, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Tell everybody right off the bat where you are in this big world of ours.
Yeah, so I'm based out of the Twin Cities in Minneapolis.
Excellent. And your journey as an author, how did all this start for you? There had to be a point in time when being an author might have been a dream, but now it's a reality.
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning. How did all this start?
Yeah, so it's always been on my bucket list to be a published author, but it was always like this dream of, I didn't actually believe that it would ever happen. It was more like, put it on my bucket list. Someday maybe it'll happen. But I do believe that if you write down your goals and your dreams, that somehow the universe brings them to you eventually. So I love to learn new things, and I signed up for a coaching program that took me to an event in Los Angeles. So I flew to LA, and I was in the intro sessions where I was meeting people. I met this wonderful woman named Laura Garris, and she was talking about how she had just published a book. And I was like, that's amazing. How did you do it? And she's like, well, it's a compilation book. And I was like, well, what's that? And she explained to me that you can actually publish a chapter and different authors will come together and they will each write a chapter in it. And what it does is it allows you to expand your network where the exposure to the book goes to all of their networks. And so you have the partnership with and the networking with the authors themselves, but also you get exposure to their networks as well. So as part of the reason why I was telling you that I didn't think it would ever happen is I didn't believe anyone would, number one, care what I had to say. Number two, no one would buy it. And, those were the things that I told myself. And I was like, well, gosh, I don't know enough people. I can't do this by myself. But if I could do this with other authors and get exposure to their networks and they get exposure to mine, then we could actually have something really great here. She connected me to her writing mentor and coach, and then the publisher. And I would say the rest is history. They brought me with other authors, and I published my first book last year as a compilation book. And I have another one coming out here on July 17th with a new group of authors. And I'm in the process of writing my own solo book. So it's all about who you know.
Wow. Okay, so for a new author that's contemplating writing a book, would you advise them to kind of go that path? Do you think that's a great starting point for a new author? Write a chapter, be part of a group, do it in community. You think that's going to be really helpful? I do. I think it's a great way to get started, especially if, like me, you're worried that you don't have a big enough reach or if it won't go anywhere. And I do want to add that book that we launched did go to international bestseller in 7 countries. So amazing. I never would have been able to do that on my own. So the power of partnering with other people and having a network is amazing. I do have a friend who also had a dream to write a book, and I hope that I in some way motivated her to finally do it. Because I think when I told her that I had published a book, she was like, well, I've been talking about this since I was in kindergarten and she did it first. Like, that's not fair. And that motivated her where she finally hunkered down, wrote the book, and she self-published a book on Amazon without doing a compilation book. It's like a 400-page novel. But she just wanted to get it out there and get started. She didn't care if it was an international bestseller. She didn't care if it made any money. She just wanted to start as an author and build her brand over time. That is certainly another path as well. But I love the idea of working with a network to get your name out there faster. So that's what I chose to do. Great. So the first book what is the overarching theme of the book? And what's the name of the book as well?
Yeah, so the name of the book is called Jumpstart Your Blank. I'm in volume 6. So the publisher publishes these every single year. So by the way, we could certainly refer you to the publisher. She's looking for authors for her next one. And again, it went to international bestseller. And the focus is really on, it's called Jumpstart Your Blank because it can really be jumpstart anything. So she usually does half of it is business focus and half of it is personal focus. I wrote a chapter on how to jumpstart your empowered self, and it focuses on how specifically, I mean, men do this too, but specifically as women, we tend to tell ourselves, who am I to do the thing? In my case, write the book, start the company, etc. We tend to be nurturers and supporters of other people. So we put ourselves last. And so I really wanted to encourage women that they have they have gifts and skills that God has blessed them with, and that they should give that in service of the world. And that by holding themselves back, you're actually doing others a disservice. So I just wanted to encourage people to step into their gifts and talk through like what it means to empower yourself and what that looks like. But there were other chapters about writing a book. There's chapters about becoming a speaker. There's chapters about growing your sales revenue. How finding a deep relationship with a partner, a love relationship, etc.
Nice.
And parenting. I mean, it really could be anything. So whatever your expertise is, you can write about it in a chapter, put it in Jumpstart Your Blanket, and move forward with that publisher. So,
wow, there's people listening right now going, wait, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have links for people to connect with the group there, and making sure that they know about this, because I think it's a great opportunity, like you said, to get your voice out there, to learn the ropes of writing, and then build up your confidence to go, wait a minute, I can write a chapter, and now I can go write my own book as well. So you've written for 2 of the versions of Jumpstart Your Blank, right?
So the book that's coming out in July is, I'm working with it's the same publisher, but a different compiler. So the compiler is the person who kind of has the network that people work with, who makes sure that the book that they have the right chapters, and by that I mean the different topics, that it's a well-rounded book, that it'll be a benefit to the reader. They hire the editor who does all the editing for you, and they handle all the marketing. So, so I'm working with a different compiler, but the same publisher. And
good. Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. And then it's leading you to write your own book as well. So where are you on the journey of writing your own solo?
Yeah.
work?
So I would say I'm about a third of the way through. I have an outline completed, and I have both the topic and the stories that I want to include. I just actually have to officially fill in the stories. So my solo book is really going to be about how to build a fulfilled and limitless life. I feel like I've been very blessed. I've been on a long journey to improve everything from my health, my relationships, my career, my family. I have a son with special needs, so that's certainly a part of my journey that I'm planning to share. And I just want to help my audience to understand like what it takes to build that fulfillment into your life, how to have joy, how to savor the small things, etc. So I created a formula. I'm calling it my fulfilled life formula, because I sat down and thought about what have I actually done to get where I am, where I actually do feel fulfilled, that I could do anything. And so I wanted to just tell the stories of how I figured that out, and hopefully that it will help other people to move towards their next level.
I love it. Do you have a rough idea of a release date for the new book?
Yes, I'm planning early September.
Okay,
so
good.
Got to hunker down
Nice.
and do the writing.
Well, I love it. And we're going to have you come back and celebrate the launch of your own solo book in the future as well. So we'll keep the door propped open to have you come back on the show and talk about that. But as we chat, Christi, I'm on your website. I love how the website looks. It's beautiful. Can you kind of talk us through a little bit about your website as we kind of go there?
Yeah. So my website really covers all the different areas of my business. And so I do everything from, I call myself a transformation coach. So I've spent the last 20 plus years helping businesses to transform their people, their processes, their technology to drive growth and sustainability in their companies. And I decided to move into supporting individuals in their transformation. Excuse me. So essentially what it does is there's a section about how to work with me. There's a section about my coaching, and then there's a section on my book and how to get in contact with me. And I'm actually working on the consulting side or the business side of that page, because I literally just recently launched my business, like supporting businesses and their transformation. I've been working as a W-2 employee in corporations on full-time for decades. And I was doing my business as a side gig, and I just stepped into full-time consulting and coaching recently. So I launched my business last year along with the launch of the book in August. And now I've decided to just take the bull by the horns, and rather than working for a corporation, I'm going to do it for myself, and I can support multiple customers at the same time. So
it's a brave new world for you.
Yeah.
To step out. I'm quite jealous because I also work somewhere else where I'd much rather not be, and I'd much rather be where my heart is taking me. So I love that you've already made that step. It's inspiring to hear someone else do something that I want to do. So congratulations on that. That's amazing. One thing I caught on your website was you have 20 rules to live by, a checklist. Can you kind of give us an idea of what this is all about? I love it.
Yeah, so it's really, I found that when people were struggling in an area, and I apologize, my voice is going here. I'm battling a bit of a cold, so forgive me. I found that when people were trying to figure out what is my next move, and you kind of do that like life assessment of, I'm not really super happy, but I'm not really sure what it is. I can't put my finger on the root cause of it. And so for me, 20 rules to live by is, I find that people tend to be the most fulfilled when they have like rules that they live by, like when they have, I would call them decision-making criteria, if you will. So like you need to know what your values are. You need to know like what you stand for and what that line is to make sure that you don't cross it. So like integrity is really important to me. I have very strong rules of what's right and what's wrong. And whenever I choose to work with a company or a client or whatnot, I want to make sure that they're aligned with my values and that I can live out my values in everything that I do so that I can be authentic to myself. And so I decided to write those down and give people support in what are those 20 rules for me and what I find that it would be beneficial for them to consider as well. So there's obviously 20, that's a lot of rules, but it, they can kind of pick and choose. Gosh, this is an area of my life I'm struggling in. That's a really good idea. Maybe I should try that and see if it helps me in my career or my relationships, et cetera. So 20 rules to live by. I really do live by all those rules. So it's a freebie on my website for anyone who wants to go check it out. They can just send me their email and I can go ahead and send it to them. And they have it for reference. And I also have a video where I walk through how to apply it to your life and different stories in my own life that relate to it to help it like hit home a little bit more.
So out of those 20 rules to live by, what is the one that you personally, even though you've written these down, what is the one that you personally struggle with maybe the most or recently? What's the one that challenges you out of that list of 20?
Well, if you had asked me the one that I'm most excited about, I would have easily said the one about being authentic. But the one that I struggle with the most is, I would say, being consistent. And part of what you have to do is you have to be adaptable to as your life changes. And that's always hard. And I do it, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing it in the moment. So for example, launching my own company and stepping out of a full-time, secure gig at a corporation, I don't have paid time off anymore. I don't have a steady, I have to build my own steady paycheck, if you will. It's not just going to show up whether I work very hard or not, right? And it also, I lose any health benefits, et cetera. So I would tell myself, like, you should step out into what your dream and your calling and your vision are. But there's certainly that voice in your head that says, what am I doing? This is crazy. Yeah. That's stable. That's what normal people do. And it's truly acknowledging that, maybe I'm not normal and that's okay. And that, I have savings. I have health insurance through my husband. I'm blessed in that way. So I can do this. And I have a great network that's going to help support me and connect me to the right people to bring in the right clients. So just stepping out. But I think that's good for people to understand is any one of those rules, there's always going to be times where it doesn't it might not sit well, or in this specific situation, it's not great.
Yeah.
So in cases like that, I always tell myself, you have 24 hours to feel sorry for yourself or to like freak out or whatever. And then you like reground, set a goal and keep moving forward.
Yeah. When I see these lists like you have on your website, my perception is, as someone that doesn't know you well, like up to hearing you on the podcast, is that you've already conquered all 20 of these. You're at the mountaintop looking down at us going, I'll help you to the highest of heights. Come and find all this. Here's a list of all the things I'm good at. And there's always this element of, well, do you even struggle with some of these? And when it's nice to hear somebody say, yes, I have these 20 rules, but it still challenges me.
Yeah.
Even as I talk to you about these 20 rules, I'm still living these myself. I'm still learning. I'm growing. And there's days where I'm good at the 20, and there's some days where, 5 of them challenge me. So It's kind of nice to hear that even as someone with you on your website, that you are a real human being. And sometimes these are not easy to live up to. And you get that. And I like to hear people like you say that.
But you never really get to the mountaintop, if you will. Like it's really about the journey. And quite honestly, you could have a, hit total fulfillment in an area, like say your relationship, and then something major happens. So I've been married to my husband it'll be 20 years in May. It's very exciting. And I'm very happily married. But we've gone through seasons where it hasn't been so great. And it's really having to recommit, like, what am I doing here? He has the values that I'm looking for. We share those values. We want the same things in life. Let's go. We're going to work this out. But so for a period of time until we like regroup and, maybe we go on vacation together, or we sit down and have a deep conversation about this isn't working for me. How do we adjust? There's going to be where, gosh, maybe I'm making this up, but let's say you did an assessment of your life and you were like, okay, my relationship is, 10 out of 10. Next month it could be 7 out of 10, or it could be 3 out of 10. Like if somebody cheated, or if, honestly, if somebody died, then obviously your relationship status is way worse, and you're no longer happy or fulfilled. So it's really about building the resiliency to adjust to whatever life throws at you, and making sure that, it's okay not to be okay. You're never going to have it all figured out. And that's why I have a coach. That's why I recommend people get a coach. So here's a really good story for you. So finances are an area that I have historically struggled in. I'm really good at making money. I tend to, like, every 10 years, I'll buy a house. Houses cost a lot of money. You go into a bunch of debt. And then my husband and I would reach a point where everything's paid off and we have all this margin in our budget. And then we would just buy another house. We'd upgrade and we would do it all over again. And so I've done that now 3 times, like 3 decades in a row. I've done that. And I'm like, gosh, wow. I don't really want to do this again. This is a pattern in my life. And at the same time, with health, I talk about this in my 20 Rules to Live By as well, that you putting yourself first means you have to take care of your health and your energy. I mean, I'm in my 40s now. Things have changed dramatically in terms of my hormones and all that. And so it doesn't look the same. And I found that my beliefs about finances and health were the 2 things that were holding me back. So I'm a total nerd, and every year I have this planner. I write down all my goals. And I noticed that I accomplished most of my goals, except for anything that was related to finances or losing weight. I've been trying to lose, 20 pounds since I had my babies. My youngest is 6 now. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't have the excuse of the baby weight anymore. And I realized that it really came down to my beliefs and it was the same belief for the money and the health, not being able to lose weight. I didn't really believe that it was possible, or maybe that if I didn't even really want that, because that means I have to give up my favorite foods, or it means I can't buy what I want, or whatever. So I actually hired a limiting beliefs coach this year to guide me through, like, what is holding me up? What am I actually telling myself about that thing that I want that I'm not accomplishing? And since working with her, I've started my own business. I'm making a lot more money, and I'm already down 12 pounds. It sounds like a miracle drug, so to speak, but I really just changed my mind. so
Yeah.
I was just so sick of putting the same goal down over and over again and not accomplishing it that I was like, okay, there's something here. I need to figure this out. So the short answer is yes, I'm very human. I'm very normal. I struggle all the time. But it's about your mindset of like, I as a person am still capable of what I want. I'm worthy of being having joy and fulfillment in my life, and I'm going to go get it. So I
Yeah.
hope everyone does.
So I like that. And there early in our conversation, you said something along the lines of your book and like, who would ever read my book? Who would buy
Yeah,
this? Would it be successful? That feels like a limiting belief in
absolutely.
that moment where, right,
Absolutely.
you're like, who cares what I have to say? Right. So why should I write this book?
Yeah.
Right. So you're now seeing a turn even there in your journey as an author, right?
Yes, and I think the big shift there was that it doesn't really matter if who would ever read it. That was making it about me. And I was worried
Mm.
that I was going to put myself out there and no one would like it or I would be open to criticism. And so in that case, the limiting belief was actually that I was afraid to be visible because I was afraid that people would judge me and criticize me
Wow.
and say something mean about me on the internet or whatever. And so I had to break that belief and just say, you know what? Just what I say to people, like if you don't share your gifts with the world, you truly are doing a disservice to the people who need to hear your message. And so when I shifted the focus off myself and really focused on, it doesn't really matter if it reaches millions or thousands or hundreds, maybe even one. All that really matters is that who needs to hear it. It will go to them and they will hear it and hopefully be encouraged. And that's why I'm here today as well, is how wherever the reach is, I imagine that there's something that people need to hear.
And that's kind of a good spot to pause, Christy, for the person listening, and you're struggling in your journey as an author,
Yeah.
and you want to write your book, you want to share your story, and you're listening to this going, "Oh, I've been limiting myself. I've been in my own way
Yeah.
this entire time, and I can't get around myself to get this done." Just listening to Christy on the show, this could be a way for you to go through and maybe identify through her 20 rules to live by, maybe some of the ways that you're getting in your own way. So definitely reach out to Christy and leverage an amazing tool to kind of do that. And then the conversation that comes with it as well, right, Christy? Like we can go through the 20 rules to live by, and then we can actually spend time with you and kind of work through some of these things together and get your thoughts that can help us unlock and get out of our own way, right?
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So usually, if people are interested, they can schedule a free call with me, and usually we'll spend some time getting to know each other, making sure that we click. How can I help? And then typically people have a specific area of their life that they're really struggling with, and like, gosh, I've tried everything, or so they feel like they have, and they want to talk about it. So it's a balance of kind of guiding them through the process, nurturing them to feel heard and seen and valued. And then what are the actionable steps you can take to move forward? So absolutely, I would love that.
Good. On your journey as an author, there's many times where you write in by yourself, alone, working on your project. Was there any points where you found a tool or a resource or a person that really helped you in your journey as an author that we could celebrate and share for other authors?
Yeah, so two of them actually. So the first is the compiler of the book that is coming out in July. Her name is Mary Knipple. She is my writing mentor, and her total mission in life is to help people to share their story. And then again, and of course, she has a compilation book to help people do that. But what she really did is, by listening to her story and seeing the passion that she has about the other stories that other men and women have written in her books, it's just really opened me up to what the possibilities are. Like every one of us has things that hold us back, various limiting beliefs. I mean, in her case, she was told, she wanted to be a writer her whole life, and she was told, that's not really a viable option to make money. You should be a secretary. And so, long story short, she became a secretary, and then she wasn't fulfilled, and she spent a lot of time like writing on the side, and then she started ghost writing for other people. So because then, you can still write, but you don't have to be visible and have it be your work, and then risk the criticism of friends and family. And it wasn't until she was much older like in her, I don't actually know or she took the step to go to college and get the education that she actually wanted, and then truly became a writer. And so I just found her story to be so motivating, and it's so true. We do that to ourselves all the time. I know so many people who spend the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades of their lives living it for somebody else or trying to meet some expectation that someone put on them. And I just don't want to do it anymore. So, and I hope nobody on this call does either. Anyone who.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something we can all put into practice. And again, anytime we can learn from another author helps us in our journey. So that's why I love having authors come on, because I want to encourage the next generation of writers to find their voice, get out of their way, like we've talked about, and get their words out there into the world. Because again, no one else can write your book. No one else can share your story. You're the only one who can do that. And we need more voices. Even though there's a flood of books in the market, there's room for you as an author, and we want to hear your story.
Yeah, and I do have a couple more practical tips as well. Obviously, Mary was somebody who guided me through the process and motivated me. But quite honestly, if on Zoom, I have Zoom and I have the Zoom app on my phone, and there are many times that I will just put, because so often an idea comes and you're not in the right place where you could sit down and write it. So I will use the audio version of Zoom, and it records a transcript. So I will record myself just talking through the idea, or so I have a weekly newsletter, or it's not necessarily, it's better. And every time I get an idea for one, I will record myself doing it so that I have the transcript and I can just copy and paste it later, and then I edit it. So I find that just the raw, get it out, whether it's writing it on the page or speaking it into a transcript, really helps to get it out, because otherwise I tend to talk myself out of it. I'll have an idea, and if I can't write it down or transcribe it immediately, I tell myself why that's not the right thing. I'll just do it next time, or I'm sure I'll come up with a better idea in a little while. But you really just have to get it out on the page, and then there's editors who can make it better, who can cut out the things that won't land with your audience, and tweak the things, or I didn't really understand this. Why don't you add another paragraph or two? Maybe you should add another story here. We always want it to be perfect right away, and that's just not how it works. The creative process that we go through, you have to just, so Brene Brown calls it the shitty first draft, excuse my language. You have to get something out so that you can build on it from there. And so I take that with almost everything I do. The first version isn't going to be amazing, but I just need to get the idea out of my head. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, because once that happens, it's kind of like a dam holds back all this information, all this inspiration. And once you let that go, it's just, it flows out of you from there. And then you got to try to keep up with it, because it just comes from every direction. And I love that process. Yeah. Anything else that helps you as early days in your writing to stay on task or be organized?
It's really simple. It's just having a journal. I always have a journal with me that I carry with me everywhere.
And, right there beside you.
It's right. It's beside me always. So if I have an idea, I jot it down, or if I actually have time to really sit. I also think it's really important to block out time in your schedule to write. So I do it every morning before my kids get up. I have a special room that I sit in a chair, and even if you only have 10 minutes just to start writing and get it out on the page is helpful. But again, sometimes that limits people, where they're like, maybe they can get it out there, but then it never moves from their journal. So again, using the transcript or something like that, where you can actually put it directly into the computer, I find it makes it easier for me to actually deliver my message, instead of, otherwise it might just stay in my journal forever. So depending on what the listeners benefit from the most, either one will work.
Yeah, and I've heard people talk about this, and I've kind of framed it in different ways with different guests, but it's kind of like when you drive the car every day, you're just focused on driving. You're not really aware of your surroundings. You're not looking out the window. You're not looking at nature or the beauty around you. But the moment you move to the passenger seat, you just don't have to concentrate on driving. You can now go, wow, look at that. I've never noticed that building or that thing or that beautiful scene. I've never seen that before. And I think we need to do that more in life, is just sit in the passenger seat once in a while and just be observant around what's going on, because that could spark inspiration, new ideas, new thoughts, new things that we can pursue, and just be part of what's going on around you, and not so focus on, I got to write the book.
Right.
But what are you doing to celebrate and bring in from around you? I think that's just a great way to add to what you're writing as well.
Yeah, I've learned through the creative process that it's actually better to step away and do something that has nothing to do with the task at hand, to just refresh your mind and to regroup. Like, I know someone who they will go to an art gallery and they'll just walk around and look at art whenever they have some major project they're working on, because they recognize that it's super productive time to have that. Or other people go for walks. And that's typically what I do. I'll go for a walk, or I'll go exercise and just completely get my mind off of it and then come back to it later. And I find I'm much more productive when I take those mind breaks.
Christi, you have, your community has been following you and has been in your world for all through your journey of being an author. Mm. And now with the new book coming out and everything, I'm sure they're going to listen to this and they're going to love hearing you talk about your journey as an author. But just to throw it over to you for a moment, what would you like to say to your community that has been there supporting you in your journey as an author and been there for you, family and friends?
Yeah.
They're going to hear this. What would you like to say to them as they listen to your episode here on the podcast?
Yeah, so I would love to thank them for supporting me. So number one is my husband for helping me. So we have 3 kids. So he watches the kids often so that I can write, and he gives me time to do all my business activities and whatnot. My friend Laura Angaris, like, she is a continuous inspiration to me. She's the one that when the book came out, I was self-critical and I was like, oh, someone's going to read it. They're not going to like it. Da, da, da. And she called me and she was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. This is amazing. And anybody who has supported me in that way, I think it just means so much. And so for anyone listening, be the encourager, like, rather than telling people like, oh, that's not going to work, or like, just say, well, why don't you try it? Why don't you just try it and see what happens? And for you personally, why don't you try it? If you have that goal or dream or vision or idea that everyone thinks is crazy, why don't you just take a step in the direction of, like, what would the first step be to get to the next, to keep moving forward on this goal or dream, and just try it and see where it goes. Because the biggest challenge we face is we shut ourselves down before anything even comes to fruition. And we just need to explore and be willing to fail and be willing to try something and look stupid, and most of the time most of the time people don't even judge you the way that you think they're going to. And what happens is you step into your authentic self, and then the right people come to you. So, right. So Laura Angaris has been, like, absolutely there. But I've had just so many people throughout my career saying, well, you're really good at this, or why don't you try that? Or even, like, the fact that I have my own consulting company, that there was a person in my ear for years saying, have you ever thought about this? You'd be so good at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, and I had my excuses, right? So yeah. I would just say thank you to my supporters, and then ask that those listening be a supporter to someone else, and to take the step for whatever your goal or dream is.
Yeah, there's greatness in all of us.
Absolutely.
And so often, again, we get in our own way and we diminish our greatness because we don't want to seem like we're coming off better than others, or we don't understand the depth of our greatness. And then when somebody comes alongside and goes, Christi, you're really good at this. You should do more of this. And you're like, no, you are. You're really good at this. So I think that's one lesson we can all walk away with today, is to look around us, at the people around us in our family and our community where we work. And when you see greatness, just point it out. That person might have never heard that before. And you might unlock something for that person that they would have never found on their own. So I love that you're leading us there. That's great.
Yeah, well, what I found too is that typically people's superpower is the thing that they downplay the most, because it's something that comes so easily to them that they just assume everyone can do it. So for example, in my case, I am really good at seeing patterns in things, and I can like look at a situation end to end. I can assess the problem and create, like, a plan in my mind of what it's going to take to get from A to Z. I just assumed anyone could do that. And that's super valuable in organizations and in really situations, like to understand what motivates people and like what can you do to drive the outcome. It's amazing. But I just thought everybody thought that way. Like I didn't have any idea what I did was unique. And it really took those people calling it out in me of like, I would say, well, obviously it's this. And they're like, no, that's not obvious to anyone else. What are you talking about? So, and my stepmom is an amazing cook and chef. And she downplays her gifts all the time. Oh, I just threw that thing together. Well, it tastes amazing. So clearly you have a gift in this area. So whatever that is for you, who's listening, just pay attention to that. Something that people like tend to compliment you on, or you're like, it just comes so easy and you really enjoy doing it. Also, don't fall for, oh, that's no big deal because it's easy. Like that's exactly what you should be doing. That is your superpower.
Perfect. I'm really looking forward to having you come back, Christi, in the future to talk about your own book as it launches. So, because I'm going to have a great conversation with you. But before we wrap up, I want to send everybody to the website again. Tell us again what we're going to find when we get there. We talked about the 20 rules to live by checklist, and I see the free consultation option as well on the website. Just tell us through the website as well. And then I have one more last question I want to get your thoughts on as we close off. But take us to the website and where you're most active online as well.
Yeah, so you can reach me at ChristiCossette.com. And there, you mentioned already, I have a consult. I have the 20 rules to live by. I also have a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for. I'm working towards weekly, so you'll have that in your inbox. And then I do both consulting and coaching services for businesses and individuals on whatever transformation they're looking for. To specifically their people, their processes, or technology, because that applies to both businesses and individuals. So connect with me there. And I missed the second part of your question. What am I missing? Yeah, no,
we're just, I'm going to have one last question here to end off their conversation. I'm wondering, like, when we look back, when you mentioned at the beginning of our podcast that, you're kind of struggling with who would want to hear my reading, who would want to read my book, who wants my thoughts. And now here we are at a totally different place. How, beyond what we talked about already today, how are you different as a person on the journey of becoming an author and writing and sharing your story now in multiple ways? How are you a different person, and what is your message to that person in the early days on the journey? How are you a different person?
I'm a different person in that I'm much more confident that my message needs to be shared, and that everyone listening, your message also needs to be shared. Whatever limiting beliefs or lies you're telling yourself that are just that, they're not true. And your story really does need to be shared. So what makes me different is that I'm just so much more confident now. I think about my audience and how I'm doing this in service to them. I'm not here for attention. I'm not here for whatever selfish ambitions that I thought people would judge me for. I'm here because whoever can benefit from it, I want them to be encouraged to do it too, whatever that goal is of theirs. So
I love it. I love it. And as you're listening to this and you're thinking, should I write my book? Your book can become your platform, and that platform can lead to many great things for you in the future. It could be that one little step up for you to share your message to a larger audience. So write the book, put your words on paper, share it with the world, and that can become something that just opens doors for you.
Amen.
I think you'd agree with that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. So you can actually take the book, put it on the ground, step on it, and there's your new platform. There's your book. There you go. You just got to step up.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then you have to actually, and then you have to post online when you finally publish it, and then with a big smile and say, "This is my book." And then I'm supposed to have a shelf behind me that as I get my books, I could put it there and you can see it behind me. But I just haven't gotten to that yet. But
there you go.
But yeah, so then people can finally feel like I did it. I did the thing. It's amazing, and they can feel pride in what they've done.
I love it, and I'm envisioning for you, Christi, many books behind you on the shelf, all the books you've written and contributed to. Many good things ahead for you in your journey as an author. So thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yes, once you start, why stop if it's something that you love? So absolutely. There
you go. Everyone, all the information for Christi is in the show notes as always. Go get the 20 rules to live by checklist. The free consult is right there on the website. Go ahead, reach out to Christi. She'd love to talk to you. Yeah. and work with you and help you on your journey as well. Christi, again, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So great to be here.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. That's a big signal to all of the players, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Spotifys, that you found value in this episode of Living the Next Chapter. Just by you listening to the end, you just sent a huge bat signal out to the app saying this was a great podcast, a great conversation. So you listening to this point, you've done your job. I have one more ask of you. If you know anyone that would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? Would you just get on, send them a message, send them the episode, tell them about this episode, tell them to livinginthenextchapter.com to get all the information about the podcast. Can you do that for me? Because the more people that hear this message, this episode, the better. I want to support these amazing authors, and I know you do as well. So sharing this episode really helps, and I appreciate you. See you on the next episode, and thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter.